Hello and welcome to Mobility Mastery Monday. My name is Alicia and I want to talk to you today about hamstrings, particularly hamstring pain, tears, and strains, maybe even spasms and cramps. They all kind of are in the same category. And I'm going to show you a few things you can do if you have hamstring pain. But before I do that, it's really important that we actually break down what causes this pain so you know what not to do, because there are certainly things you're going to want to do that you shouldn't do because it might make it worse. And then I'm going to, of course, tell you what to do and why. So that why has to do with a anatomical law that I talk a lot about here at Mobility Mastery, which is reciprocal inhibition, or the relationship between opposing muscle groups and what happens when one of them is too tight and your brain thinks there's danger of a tear. So in the case of hamstring pain, the major culprit, can you guess, is not your hamstrings, it's actually your quads in most cases. So this isn't 100% true across the board, and I'm sure there are cases where sometimes the hamstring is actually really fascially tight and that's why you have hamstring pain or tear, but it is not the norm in my practice, and I see a lot of people with hamstring pain, hamstring tears, hamstring strains, and spasms and cramps, and rarely is the hamstrings themselves the problem, meaning they're not tight. That's not why it's happening. So let me kind of break this down for you. I know it probably seems counterintuitive that the hamstrings aren't the problem, and in fact the quad is, but here's why. All of you with hamstring cramps are going to understand this, or if you've ever had a hamstring spasm or cramp while doing, say, an acute hamstring curl at the gym or trying to work out your hamstrings in that kind of way. The number one thing that will happen when you're doing something like a hamstring curl on, say, a Bosu ball or something like that, if you get a cramp, like, what's the first thing you do when you get it? I've had this happen to me, and I want to come right out of that hamstring curl and straighten my leg, right? Like, that's the first thing I want to do. So what I mean is, for my hamstring to contract, the quad has to stretch, and in the case of hamstring spasms and cramps, when you're doing an acute curl, your hamstring is contracting, but your quad has to stretch. If your brain thinks that your quad is in danger of tearing, it will ping you with a pain or spasm or cramp in the hamstring, because the first thing you're going to do is straighten it out. And if you've ever had a Charlie horse in your calf, you probably also know what I'm talking about, because it might be down here and spasming like this, and you have an instinct to stretch your calf to get the spasm to stop. So how this translates then to hamstring pain or potentially little tears, now I'm not talking about like a full rupture, that's probably going to be due to something else, is you're likely engaged in sporting activities or just any activity like running or going to the gym and lifting weights and stuff like that, and you're continuing to actually build up the strength in your quads, and maybe not paying as much attention to your hamstrings and that posterior chain for strengthening, or you're just overusing your quads like so many of us do in your sports like soccer. I see a lot of soccer players with hamstring pain or hamstring cramps or hamstring spasms, and they have super developed quads. If you're an ultra runner or a trail runner, or even in the gym on the elliptical and the bike and the Stairmaster, like all of those things actually overuse your quads most of the time at the expense of that hamstring. And then when you try to contract your hamstring, you get that ping. So there are a few different categories that hamstring pain and strains and tears kind of fall into. And one is going to be that reciprocal inhibition relationship, right? And the other one is going to be maybe irritation. And so this is going to be more the pain category. So less about the tears, although sometimes they overlap and they go together. So you might have a little bit of a tear if you get it MRI'd or whatever in that hamstring, but also hamstring pain. But you could definitely have hamstring pain without anything that someone can diagnose in your hamstrings themselves. And it's my opinion that it's usually irritation from nearby fascia getting too tight and actually pulling on it. So the nearby fascia could be still the quad irritating it, but also maybe the high adductor, and then potentially the IT band hamstring fascial junction, where that fascial junction is getting pulled in a knot and then pulling on that high hamstring or mid hamstring area. So the number one thing I actually want you to not do or stop doing is actually trying to release your hamstring, get your hamstring massaged, or going in there in any kind of way with stretching to affect change in the hamstring itself. Now, a lot of the time this can feel kind of good in the immediate, but it's going to usually make the pain last longer and be harder to get rid of in the long term because you're not actually addressing the root cause, which is going to be somewhere else: quad, IT band, hamstring fascia, adductor fascia, somewhere in there. So now I'm going to show you what to do right now that you can try if you're struggling with hamstring pain, strain, spasms, cramps, and see if you get immediate relief. So you can see I'm on a foam roller. It's a semi-hard but still kind of soft foam roller. I don't like anything with knobs on it, and you could certainly use a PVC pipe, something super hard if you want, but with me, I'm always trying to not get the fascia sore, and this foam roller right here is more than adequate in terms of density. So I'm on my quad, and let's say I have a hamstring issue on my left side. So that's what I'm going to show you today, this left quad. You want to use your rolling very slowly up and down to find the densest, maybe knotted up or adhesed part of that fascial system in the quad. Or it could be super tight and tender and sore, like you might yelp when you get on the right spot. That actually means you're on a great spot to release. So I'm not a fan of rolling on a roller, as a lot of you know if you've been with me for a while. So we're going to actually pin the adhesion to the bone or between the bone and the roller, and then use movement to break it up. So in the case of hunting out the cause of this for your hamstring, you could definitely investigate your entire quad, and I recommend you do that. I'm not going to walk you through each section of the quad today because I want to move on and show you the other techniques as well. But you're going to find the worst spot first. Might as well go to the worst spot, or the best spot, depending on how you look at it. And that's just going to be the most sensation, or a big giant knot, or both of those things together. And then you're going to move your leg. So I've got a nice clunk or two here in my quad, and it's kind of on the outside. So I'm moving my leg back and forth, 90-degree bend-ish. You could go down a little bit, certainly. Try it slightly less bent. You could go to fully straight and roll back and forth. All of these are great options. And then you want to spend like 30-40 seconds maybe on one spot, going back and forth, nice and slow and fluid with your movement. No jagged, zigzaggy, like, wow, okay, cut that. No rapid, fast movement, right? We want to move slowly and deliberately, and then you're going to find the next spot, and it might be higher towards the hip, or it might be lower towards your knee. And like I said, I encourage you to search out the fascia in the entire quad, because it might be right on top, which I am on right now. It might be slightly to the side. So you're going to want to angle your hips if it's more in that IT band side of your quad fascia. And then same thing, clunking. So I'm just leaning my body weight into that IT band quad junction and then rotating my leg again. And I could stay bent, or I could go straight, just like that. So you want to do that over the whole quad. And then you could certainly check the IT band hamstring junction with, you know, you could go right into it from the quad technique by kind of sinking your weight into that hamstring IT band junction and then using some rotation again, bent or straight. All of this is good good on my left IT band is super sore. I don't know why I picked that to demo for you guys. But that's essentially how you get into that IT band kind of hamstring junction. So I highly recommend you check both the quad, like I'm on it right now, just parallel to the floor, and then lean into that IT band side and see what you can find. I have other videos for both of these techniques if you want to find them, but I wanted to give you something you can do right now if you just landed on this video for hamstring pain. When you're done with your whole quad and your whole IT band junction there, you're going to put your foam roller aside, and if you have access to a basketball, this is my preferred tool for this one. We're going to go into the adductor fascia, but you could use a medicine ball if you have one at the gym, and most gyms have them. But if you're somebody who's super active or you struggle with pulled groin muscles or just adductor tightness in general, or maybe even like low back pain, SI pain or whatever, and you want to add a basketball to your tool for fascial release at home, I highly recommend it because this works really, really well for that adductor fascia. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to place it on that high adductor on my left leg again, as if I had left-sided hamstring issues. And the high adductor is really the one that has a lot to do with this hamstring pattern that I see with my clients. So you want to really lean some weight into it. So I like staying up on my forearms right here. I like to get a little leverage and really like shove the ball way up there. It's not going to feel great. If there's fascia to release there, it's going to feel tender and sore. And then you've got straightening out your leg and rotating it back and forth. And you really want to get into that hamstring adductor junction again. So I want to encourage you to become your own detective, and you're going to do that with sensation. So if it feels intense, if it feels sore, if it feels tender, then that fascia isn't healthy, and you should go there and release it and then find out what happens. So again, just a reminder, you know, it might be high like in your adductor, like the pattern I've seen, but it might be a little bit lower on you. So go ahead and check that as well. Similar to the quad and IT band, you want to check it all to see what it feels like, and then see how your hamstring feels after releasing it. Okay, so those are the first 3 things I want you to try, but here's the thing, I want you to do them one at a time. So if you're currently struggling with hamstring pain, then before you even start anything, rate your pain 1 through 10, just standing there or maybe doing whatever hurts it the most, like a squat or a wall sit or something like that. And then go ahead and try maybe the quad first. Do the whole quad, feel it out, find the spots that work for you, 3 or 4 spots, 30 to 40 seconds per spot, then get up and walk around and re-rate your pain. Check in. Is there a change at all? Is it a good change, a negative change, a neutral change? And maybe re-rate your pain, like I said. So maybe it went from a 6 out of 10 to a 3 or a 4 or 5. That's good data for you, because then you'll go to the next one, maybe the IT band, and then do the same thing. So do the whole IT band, explore that region, find the spots, 3 to 4 spots per body part, and then 30 to 40 seconds per spot, get up, walk around, and re-rate your pain again. So if your pain levels change a lot with one technique, then you know that that spot, if it takes it, say, from a 6 all the way to a 2, just from doing the IT band or the quad, then you know that that spot is a really good one for you and likely the main culprit for your pain. So I want you to do this with each one. So then, do the adductor and try it again. Now, if you actually get to 0, if your pain goes from a 6 to a 0, just doing any one of these, then I would maybe leave it for a day, do some gentle walking or walking around, right, to get brain-body coordination again, get the tissue and fascia moving, gliding like it's supposed to. And if your pain comes back, you could either do that same technique again that got you to 0, or you could add in another technique as needed. All right, that's it. I would love to hear what your takeaway was from this, because I know most clients that I talk to are, just astonished that for me to help them with hamstring pain, I'm not even going to touch their hamstrings, and I want them to stop stretching them, and we're actually going to go to these other areas instead. So if this is news to you, I would love for you to share that below. And of course, if you have hamstring pain and you try this and you get a result, please come share that, because you're going to inspire somebody else who is looking for hope and relief, and they're going to want to try it if they hear your success story. So please share those below. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love for you to become part of my Mobility Mastery community. And if you want to join my email community, I have a few free resources for you that you can grab by clicking the link in the description below. So that's it for now, and I'll see you next time.